Hello and welcome to this edition of Startup Central. I'm Nayantara. This is the only show of its kind on Indian television dedicated, of course, to startups, innovation, technology, disruption. Basically, if it falls under the gambit of the new economy, it's going to be here on ET Now every weekday at 6 p.m. Now, you must be living under a rock if you don't know as yet that private markets are so hot and buzzing. And you always see that as well when big moves happen. Nimesh Kampani used to head investor relations at Kotak, and then he joined LetsVenture. Now he's also co-founder and CEO of Trica, a LetsVenture company. He's joining us today on Startup Central to talk about Trica's plans for the startup ecosystem, how they're going to be funding companies in the growth stage. And we're also going to be using this time to talk to him about the upcoming Dhamaka on Dalal Street around Diwali. That's right, a lot of IPOs. Mr. Kampani, always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for joining us here. So, Trica is going ahead with its plans for funding these startups. Tell us more.
No, I think so. We launched the business last year, right? So on both the funding side as well as the entire equity management side, right? So I think what we got reasonable success, so to speak, in the 18 months journey we have had till now. From here on, I think the idea is to grow the business, completely focus on the equity part of things. So we want to have a full stack solution around equity for private markets, right? Be it equity management, be it fundraise, be it transactions, be it liquidity, and much more. Right? So today we are targeting a certain set of stakeholders which we want to widen on the equity and be the go-to person for the CFO for anything related to equity. Right? Be it information, be it data, be it raising money. So I think that's the whole idea. Right? The focus is around equity as the core.
So there are two ways to look at it, right? One is to get the startups, the founders, the startup employees ready for equity markets. The other could also be to try and get people like a retail investor excited, informed. Are you addressing that part also?
So not yet going to retail, Nayantara, but I think, of course, what we are trying to do is work on the deal access, right? I think historically, always deal access was a very privileged access point where you had to know the founders, you had to know the VCs, the partners there. But I think we are trying to democratize and organize this entire space, right? And as Trica, the name itself means, it's taken from the word Tricon, and it means the three principles on which you are basing the business is trust, transparency, and technology. Right? So I think these are three things. Because today in the market there is huge information arbitrage, price arbitrage, and the deal access is very limited. That is what we are trying to completely change. We only work with, of course, accredited investors. We work with SEBI on those things. But yes, trying to offer the same things to a wider network of people, which you see real good interest. The investors are rewarded. Right? They not only now want only public market investments, but they want direct investments in private markets going beyond fund investments. Right? And that's where players like us come in.
Mr. Kampani, what kind of companies will Trica invest in? The point I'm trying to get at is it going to be companies that are about to enter the public markets, that are getting set to file an IPO or are closer to an IPO?
So that's the beauty, right? We are building the business for everybody interested in the private markets, be it from early stage. So LetsVenture is, of course, there to take care of the entire early stage investment. And Series A plus all the way up to pre-IPO is something that we will work on with investors and founders, right? So it's that the beauty is that anything in private markets, there is one single source, and that will be the entire LetsVenture.
Mr. Kampani, how can I have you on the channel and not ask you about the upcoming Dhamaka? I'm calling it the Diwali Dhamaka on Dalal Street. All the IPOs, whether it is Paytm, Nykaa, Policy Bazaar, maybe even Mobikwik will manage before Diwali. There's a lot of excitement. How are you seeing this? And I think the excitement has also grown after Zomato.
Yeah, I think we had spoken earlier, Nayantara, and I also had Alex. I think that is what the new age technology companies bring to the table, right? The opportunity to ride when they are actually today very young, right? As I always say, right, the IPO is just this, the lunch session of the second day of the test match, right? There's a long way to go. There's a huge market still untapped, a huge product development to be done, and always it's for the investors to see what they're getting into, right? I think where the money is going, is it going for investments? Is it going for high growth of customers? Is it going to make the business profitable? Or is it just providing liquidity to all your investors? So I think that is what the investors have to look out for. Of course, always, and I always mention this, the poster boy is Amazon. It's for a decade, they were loss making, but then when they started turning profitable, they really turned profitable. It actually changed the view investors looked at things, and they taught them patience. I think it's no more long term is no more 1 year. I think you have to be patient. Look at any of these businesses with a 5-year horizon when you're investing. There will be volatility. There will be movements that you will see because there will be high beta when they get listed. But of course, I think patience will pay in some of these where once they are building long-term sustainable businesses, I think the high growth opportunity they offer, the wide gamut of product offering, I think each of these companies that you mentioned, Nayantara, are growing vertically as well as horizontally. Right? It's not only that particular business that you're investing what they are today. They're investing into the future. So I think a patient capital is what is going to win in this game. And I'm also as eager you are looking forward to them, myself I'm looking forward to them as well.
Do you think that Zomato has now convinced a lot of the naysayers as well? Look at someone like Dr. Ashwath Damodharan. He said, I wouldn't subscribe to a Zomato. He gave it, a 40 rupee share price thing. And for Paytm, it seems like, so different when you talk about technology. He himself is talking about a $20 billion valuation.
Yeah. So it's always that the beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder, right? So the investor is the one who's taking the decision on the faith they put in the management, the faith they put in the growth of the business, right? I think the sustainability, as you mentioned, the growth opportunity there is huge in all of these companies. If each of these companies that we mentioned would be having 50 million customers, 60 million customers, and India is a country of 1.4 billion people, right? So I think the next few years will determine how these companies grow and how they are able to capture the market, go deeper, both in terms of product offering and in terms of the wallet share they have of these customers. And that's where the entire growth will come in. That's where the opportunity for growth is, right? So a value investor who comes in, typically any value investor you look at, always looks at the past, right? But the new age companies are not for value investors because the value lies in the future in these companies. So all of our the predictions that we make based on numbers, the forecast, I think some of that doesn't hold true because these businesses are very agile. They evolve on a daily basis, right? And what the model is, and especially when I look at a lot of Series A, Series B companies, right? They come with a certain model and they pivot into something very different and become very successful in that. So I think it's all about the optionalities. It's all about the management. I think their conviction, their execution capability is what you are banking on. Right? And that's how this world has to be looked at.
I've asked you this before, but because the investor base has been growing up, look at the retail participation that we are now seeing in the primary markets. You can thank Zomato as well. So I'm going to ask you this one question again. All the retail investors, the Gen Zs, the millennials too, who will be looking at, whether it's a Nykaa or a Paytm, what do they need to look at in these tech companies that are headed to the Dalal Street? What should be their lens? What should help them decide?
So I think that's a good one, and also with the kind of people that are coming into the market as investors, right? The new age investors that are coming, the millennials and the younger people who want to invest. I think they also come without the baggage of looking at price to earnings and price to book, the traditional metrics that we looked at, right? I think more so that's what the two things that I always say to look at when you're looking at a private market investment, right? One is the path to profitability or exponential customer growth. And second is the use of funds since you're raising money from the public. Where is the money going? Right? Is it going for new investments and new discoveries and new research, or is it going to be going to return the money or help liquidate the founders and the earlier investors? I think that is one big criteria I would look at. Second is, I think then going into nuances, I think the new terms that you look at is in terms of what is the lifetime value of the customer, what is the cost of acquisition of the customer, what is the business mode that this particular business brings in. Is it a monopoly, duopoly segment? Because that's where I think the highest growth will come. And of course, always go for the top one or two players in each of the segments, because that is where the growth will come. That is where these guys will grow. And that is where you will, tend to create your wealth, right? And I think the last piece that I would leave with you on this is for the investors. If you don't really understand, you should go and back professional managers. I think there are enough and many out there, mutual funds, AIFs, I think they should do that. They're experts in this space. So if you do not understand, I think you can do with them. And if you want to do, I think it's all about the future, right? I hope that helps Nayantara, all the investors.
Okay. That's it. Okay. We're going to leave it at that, Mr. Kampani. And here's an open invitation. You have to be back closer to Diwali. And once all of the approvals start coming in from SEBI as far as the draft reading of prospectuses of these startups and unicorns go.
Sure. Look forward, man. Thank you so much.